Picture this. You just posted a photo, or maybe you just sent a text, a risky one, to the group chat. What's the first thing that you do? You lock your phone, and then 30 seconds later, you check it. And there's no notification. So you start rereading what you wrote. Did I sound too aggressive? Was that joke actually mean? Do they think I'm trying too hard? Or how about this one? Imagine you're at a dinner party. You tell a joke. No one laughs. There's a 3-second silence. And in that moment, your heart rate spikes. Your skin gets super hot, and you spend the rest of the night and probably the drive home dissecting every syllable of that joke. If you're new here, I'm Ara, and my hope is to help you build quiet confidence, turn your inner critic into your inner coach, and start living as your future self right now. If that speaks to you, please hit that subscribe button and feel free to leave a comment so that we can all keep this important conversation going. All right, let's get back to it. If you think that the approval trap is something that we outgrow in our 20s, I have some news. For many of us, the volume actually gets louder as we get older. We spent decades building a reputation, a family, a career, and now the stakes feel higher than ever. We've all been there. We spend hours, sometimes even days, mentally rehearsing conversations or agonizing over a look someone gave us in the hallway. It feels like a physical wound when someone doesn't get us. Why do we let a single side eye from a stranger ruin a perfectly good Tuesday? Because we're living in a constant state of social surveillance in an era of hypervisibility. We feel watched, judged, and rated at every moment. But today, we're here to stop the bleed. Here's the kicker. While you're losing sleep over what they think of you, they're actually losing sleep over what you think of them. It's true. Whether you're 25, 45, or 85, you are likely still haunted by an invisible audience, a jury of people who aren't even watching, yet they dictate what you wear, what you say, and which dreams you're allowed to chase. Today, we aren't just looking at why we care. We're looking at how to fire that jury and finally reclaim your life. So let's break down the hardwired glitch in your brain that makes you crave validation. First, I want you to give yourself a break. Caring what people think isn't a character flaw. It's a survival mechanism, okay? 50,000 years ago, being liked was literally a life or death matter. If the tribe didn't like your attitude, they kicked you out. And in the wild, out meant you were lunch for a leopard. Your brain learned to equate social rejection with physical death. And then fast forward to today. Your boss maybe gives you a slightly short email, or your friend or partner leaves you unread. Your modern brain, it doesn't see a busy person on the other side. It sees a leopard. Your nervous system goes into fight or flight because it thinks you're about to be exiled from the tribe. So think about the spotlight effect that we've all felt at one time or another. We walk into a room with a tiny, tiny, tiny little coffee stain on our shirt, and we think everyone is staring at it like it's a neon sign. But in reality, everyone else is also worried about their own coffee stains, their bad hair day, or their awkward greeting. We all are the protagonists of our own movies, which means we're barely even extras in everyone else's life, right? So what happens when we let this survival instinct run the show? We start people pleasing, which really is just a fancy term for lying. I know it sounds really harsh, but think about it. When you agree with an opinion that you actually hate, or you say yes to a party you're too tired to attend, you are manipulating that person's perception of you. You aren't letting them know the real you. You're giving them a curated version that you think that they'll accept. The cost? You end up surrounded by people who love a version of you that actually doesn't exist. And that can be one of the loneliest feelings in the world. We care what people think because we want to feel safe, but there is no safety in a life where you have to perform 24/7. We know the biology, the tribe or die instinct, right? But for women in the 40 plus demographic, there's an extra layer. Social conditioning. You were likely raised to be the glue, the one who keeps the peace, the quiet one, the one who doesn't make a scene, the one whose worth is tied to how happy everyone else is around you. There's the 40s and 50s glitch. Like me, you're in the sandwich generation. You're worried about your kids' judgment, your aging parents' expectations, and your peers' success. And then there's the 60s to 80s glitch. You might feel a pressure to age gracefully, which is often code for become invisible. You worry that if you start a new hobby or change your look now, people will think you're having a crisis or just being silly. Think about that good weight or the appropriate outfit that you've maintained for years just to avoid a comment from a sister or a friend. You are essentially paying a peace tax, trading your authenticity just to keep the social water still. Now, I want to talk about one of the hardest parts. It's one thing to ignore a random hater, right? It's another thing entirely when the person holding that judgment sign is your spouse or your parent or your best friend. You have a dream. Say maybe you want to start a business or change careers or move across the country. You share it with the person closest to you, expecting a cheerleader, and instead, you get a bucket of cold water or worse. They say things like, is that realistic? Can't you just be happy with what you have? Or I don't think you're cut out for that. Or they immediately start talking about how your decisions will affect them. Most of the time, their negativity isn't about your lack of potential. It's not, it's about their fear. There's the mirror effect, okay? Your growth reminds them of their own stagnation. If you succeed, they no longer have an excuse for why they stayed stuck. And then we have the threat to the status quo. If you change, the relationship changes. They are protecting the version of you that makes them feel the most comfortable and safe. Your loved ones, they're often using an old map to navigate your new world. Their negativity is rarely about your ability. It's a reflection of their own fear of change, or maybe even their need to keep you in a box where they feel comfortable and, again, safe. So, what I want to do is I want to give you some tactical tips for family friction. Let's start here. Let's start with the information diet. You don't have to share the seed of your dream with people who only have salt or Roundup to pour on it. Wait until it's a tree before you show it to the skeptics. And then another tip, use I don't instead of I can't. When a friend pressures you into a social obligation that you don't want, say, I don't do late nights on Tuesdays anymore. It sounds like a personal rule rather than an excuse that they can argue with. Yeah. And then there's support versus permission. You can love someone deeply and still decide that they don't get a vote on your calling. They just don't. Now, let's talk about how to actually stop caring. And let's get deeper than just the be yourself advice, right? Tip one, the none of my business mantra. I want you to realize that what someone thinks of you is filtered through their own trauma, typically, their bad mood, and maybe even their limited perspective. Their opinion of you, it's a them problem, not a you problem. You don't necessarily need to call them out about it, but I do encourage you to place their feedback and their opinion into the appropriate box, preferably the box that you set out with the weekly garbage to be hauled away out of your life forever. Tip two, I want you to practice micro rejection. This one might make you a little bit uncomfortable, but I truly believe our best growth happens in what I like to call the uncomfort zone. So try something a little bit out there, like maybe going to a store, ask for a discount that you don't need just because, or wear a hat that you think is too much, or stop in the middle of your walk and maybe even your work day, bust a few dance moves. I want you to feel the awkwardness, but most importantly, I want you to notice you didn't die. The more you survive tiny moments of judgment, the more you realize that other people's opinions are just vibrations in the air. They have no power unless you give them your consent. Tip three, focus on meaningful social relationships. Let's get real for a second about your social circle. Most of us were living in a high school mindset and a master's degree life. What that means, we think we need to be liked by everyone. The cashier, the neighbor who never mows their lawn, the chick at the gym who side-eyes you or smirks all the time. It's exhausting. There's this thing, it's called the science of socio-emotional selectivity theory, also known, thank goodness, as SST. Psychologists have found that as we age and perceive our time horizon shrinking, our goals change. In our 20s, we want breadth. We want more contacts, more networking, more fans. But as we hit 40, 50, 60, our brains naturally shift more toward depth. Your brain is literally trying to tell you, we don't have time for fake people anymore. So if you're still trying to maintain a massive fan base of acquaintances, you're fighting your own evolution. SST suggests that emotional satisfaction, it comes from investing your limited energy into a tiny, high quality inner circle. This isn't withdrawing from the world, it's curating your world. So here's a strategy: build your board of directors. Think of your life as a billion-dollar company. Who's sitting at the table making those big decisions? Currently, you might be letting the random lady at the PTA or your judgmental cousin have a seat on your board. I want you to fire them, seriously, immediately. Instead, I want you to handpick 3 to 5 people to be your board of directors. These should be people who share your core values, not just your zip code. People who are brave enough to tell you the truth, but kind enough to do it without shaming you. And people who are already living a life that you admire. Your new rule: if a piece of criticism comes from someone not on your board, it is unprocessed data. You can see it, you can acknowledge it exists, but you do not let it influence the company's direction or your life. Imagine you decide to stop dyeing your hair and you want to go gray at 55 or 50 like me. The neighbor says, "Whew, aren't you worried that makes you look older?" Or, "What the hell are you thinking?" The filter, is she on the board? No, her comment is just noise. It's a reflection of her fear of aging, not your reality. The board member says something more like, "I love the confidence that you're showing. You look powerful." The action I want you to take, that is the only opinion that gets a vote. When you shrink the number of people whose opinions actually count, the weight on your shoulders, it doesn't just get lighter. Nope, it actually disappears. You stop being a people pleaser and start being a person seeker, looking only for the ones who truly resonate with your soul. I'm gonna leave you with this. So whether you're 20, 40, or 80, the horizon is always moving. You have a finite amount of life energy left. Do you really want to spend it editing your personality for people who might not even come to your funeral? I don't think so. The most graceful way to age is to become fearlessly yourself. The world, it doesn't need more people pleasers. Nope, it needs you, fully awake and unapologetic. So I'm going to give you some homework for this week. I want you to do one thing that you've been avoiding because of them. Then I want you to come back to the comments and tell us how it felt to finally be free. I am rooting for you, and I'll see you guys in the next one.